Ah, yeah! Pokemon Masters came out yesterday. Beat it already. Got a load of near max level guys, because I'm pretty great. Yeah. Alright, no, I got the game a month early, thanks to DNA, its creators, who are also sponsoring this video. So huge thanks. So my favorite part about the Pokemon world is just that. The world, the lore, and world building is great. So of course I was wondering what Pokemon Masters adds to it. Which is exactly what this video is about. How does Pokemon Masters fit into the lore? Pokemon Masters takes place on an artificial island named Pasio, which is nothing out of the ordinary. In Pokemon Sun and Moon, the Aether Foundation's base was an entirely artificial island too. The name of the island comes from the Esperanto word for passion, and Esperanto really is the best language to pull from for it. Because you see, trainers from all over the world are coming together to take part in the PML, the Pokemon Masters League, which is being hosted here. Of course, this means that several languages are being spoken here. I mean, think about it. Kanto, Johto, Sinnoh, and Hoenn are all based on various Japanese regions. Unova is based on New York. Kalos is French, etc. I mean, do you really think the whole Pokemon world speaks the same language? This is proven untrue by Professor Belis, the island professor. She is constantly using words from all sorts of languages: English, Spanish, Japanese, French, and more. And it would make sense for a professor of such a diverse island to know so many languages. And plus, she even mentions how diverse the people are here. But right, the point I was trying to make, the point for this video. The name of the island comes from Esperanto, and Esperanto is a very recently created language. Created. In 1887, it was created with the purpose of being the easiest language to learn as a second language, which would better unite the world and help with international affairs. So it is perhaps insinuated that everybody here is speaking Esperanto? I suppose that's a theory. After all of these trainers are able to communicate without issue despite coming from all over the world. No, they all speak English, 'cause that's what I read it in. You don't understand localization. In anime and games all the time, even when you're reading it or even hearing it dubbed in English, there are sometimes moments of, oh no, it's a foreigner! My English isn't very good. I hope they can understand me. They say as they're speaking English because canonically they're speaking Japanese. Just because they are speaking English right now doesn't mean that's canon. Anyway, there's a little theory. On to the next bit. Let's get back to talking about Pasio. Being an artificial island means, of course, that all of the dirt and plants were brought here. Gardenia at one point mentions how she's curious about how they chose which plants to bring. But considering that everything was brought here, it makes sense then that there are no wild Pokemon, because this isn't a natural landmass. All the Pokemon you see in the game belong to someone, which is a really convenient story way of explaining the gameplay mechanics. You don't collect Pokemon, you add trainers to your team. But you would have never gotten this far in the first place without help from Professor Belis. Her name refers to the Belis genus of flowering plants. Think the daisy, or sunflower. And theory time! Do you think her name could also be a reference to Ellis Island? A mostly artificial island where people from all over the world speaking all sorts of languages came together to become American citizens? I mean, just add a B, and it's her name. I'm just saying. Though that's only her English name. And French and Italian. But in Japanese, her name isn't that. It's just the Japanese word for the common daisy. So either the similarity in English was unintentional, or the localization team is just excellent. Anyway, her whole thing is that she is studying the relationship between Pokemon and Sync Stones, which are this game's main attack gimmick. They work similar in concept to Z Crystals. It's an item that allows the bond between a trainer and Pokemon to manifest itself in a super attack. Though Sync attacks aren't as powerful as Z moves. but they can be done multiple times per battle at least. Now, at this point, the game only has about the first half of its story or so more details will be added as time goes on. But right now, it's briefly mentioned that these sink stones were found in the ocean around the area where the island was built. In fact, it may be the reason the island was built here specifically. Putting some pieces together, we can theorize that Pasio was built somewhere near Alola, but not too close. Z crystals are found only in Alola, and considering how much of Alola is ocean, it's safe to assume that a load of Z crystals were lost to it. So perhaps a load of these ocean diving Z crystals washed away through the ocean currents, whipping and being ground down against the water and the waves and the salt and the sand. But then eventually the current takes them somewhere where the current gets too weak and it drops them all, and there's a common area, a common spot somewhere out in the ocean where all of these beaten up, battered down Z crystals land. And this is where Pasio was built. After all, sink stones are described basically the same way as Z crystals. They're just not as strong. So, I think that's a decent theory to make. Sink stones are just really weak old Z crystals. But speaking of Pasio being built, who built it? Well, we're introduced to that character pretty early on, and his name is Lear, an obscenely rich and snobby prince from another region not specified. In fact, the whole reason he had the island built was to set up the Pokemon Masters League to bring in all of the best trainers from all around the world, specifically just so he can overcome his weaknesses and win the tournament and prove that he truly is the best, like no one ever was. Because obviously he is the best. He's accompanied by two other trainers, his servants, Rachel and Sawyer, and all three of them are massive tools! I'm not kidding! No, really! Rachel, Ratchet, Sawyer, Saw, Lear, Plier. That last one might seem like a bit of a stretch, but his name in Japanese is Flyer, written the same way as plier without the P sound. And his various European languages are Alic or Alexis, which come from Alikets, if I'm pronouncing that right, which is Spanish for pliers. Yeah, it's hilarious. They are all tools. But that also goes into how they treat their Pokemon. Lear is even quoted as saying that Pokemon are nothing more than tools, making him just like all the other Pokemon protagonists. I mean, what did you expect? Also, judging by his looks, I'm speculating that he's secretly also the leader of Team Break, the villainous organization of the game. You see him often fighting against Team Break, but I feel like either he's doing it to sort of make him seem innocent, or he actually hired all of the people to be an evil team for him to fight for training and or seem more heroic and important. After all, throughout the game you run into many Team Break members who have the goal of stealing your Pokemon, to take the bond you share with your Pokemon and break it apart, hence the name. But a lot of them are clumsy, often forgetting to put on their masks on until later, or even the opposite, getting it stuck. None of them really seem like professional bad guys, and half the time they have no idea what they're doing. And also, unlike every other villainous team in Pokemon history, they don't have their own models or outfits or anything. Instead, they are just the everyday people, but with masks on. Which all leads me towards that they are just regular trainers, but they are hired to act as bad guys. It's a theory, but we won't really know anything for sure until the rest of the story is added. But at least, as the story is now, you do get to collect every badge. You see, in order to qualify for the PML, you must first collect all 5 badges, and then you enter it. The Pokemon Masters League, which has more story continue after it, and is also the multiplayer part of the game. And that is basically all the lore there is. It's basic lore, but it's enough. As of right now, it doesn't really go anywhere, but we only have like half of the story right now anyway, so they'll add the rest in an update much later. So what do you think? Does this spin-off fit well into the Pokemon universe? And what do you think of all these various theory tidbits? Let me know down below, and until next time, never stop using your noggin, and check out Pokemon Masters with the link in the description. I'm stinking loving it. I got a review out. You can click there to see that review.